Hey guys, welcome to another edition of Rope for One. I'm Madam Love, your hostess, and glad you're here. I wanted to talk to you guys about the difference in ropes and other options that you can use for restraints and play. One of the things people don't realize is the first thing you could actually use is your clothing. You can pull off your clothing and have your arms still in the sleeves and then wrap it around itself a couple times, and then you actually have a form of restraint. You can do the same thing with pants. You can pull them down to your ankles and then wrap your feet around the fabric to tighten it, and that can be your restraint. Exit strategy, of course, is to just either unloop it and then you can just pull it off. If you have nothing with you, you want to feel a little bit of that, supported hug feeling, or you want to play in other ways, that's a quick one. Of course, scarves, also very discreet. If you're going somewhere and you don't want to take a full bag of ropes, if you have a couple scarves, you can, of course, use them to tie with. And same rules for scarves apply to rope, right? You can tie it off to something, and then you have a basic wrist tie. Very simple, very basic. Tie your hands together to the other side. And this is just going to get looped over. There you go. Very basic, and it's easy enough. Pulling off, exit strategy, right? Always your exit strategy. This one's just a simple hitch. This just comes right off if you need to tighten it up more, right? Basic restraint you can play with. Scarves, wonderful invention, and they help keep you warm if you need to. Now, another thing that is not as comfortable but works also well are belts that you can use. They're a little harder to use on your wrists, but you can use them like anything else where you make a big loop out of the belt and then double up into your hands, do a couple twists. There you go. Basic restraint. Also works on other limbs, right? Leg to foot to foot, arm to arm, whatever. Arm to object, all works. Okay, exit strategy, one untwist, a slip out. No problem. Now, very common for finding rope, if you actually want to play with rope, is skipping rope. Now, they come in different qualities, different colors. This one is actually a high quality braided rope that is very soft. I think this is either a nylon or polyester rope. I'm not taking this apart. This is actually my skipping rope. But that is one option. You want to avoid something like this that's very coarse. It's very rough. It's very open fibers. They pull apart easily. This will not feel good. It's also very skinny. Skinny rope will cut more into the skin and possibly causing damage. This is another example. This is natural fiber rope or twine. It's very skinny, very fine. It is rougher, but in a softer way also. It depends on what your kind of experience you want. I have some natural fiber rope that's actually for rope play. This is hemp that has been hitched onto the end. This is a twisted rope, where the other one, for comparison's sake, this one's braided, this one's twisted. So I can actually untwist it and the individual twist will come out. So those are some rope basics. You want to buy rope. Find something that's around 3/8 inches wide, around 8 millimeters for the metric folks. It doesn't have to be exactly this diameter. It can be a little bigger, it can be a smaller, but something around there is comfortable and easy to tie with. If it gets too thick, it's harder to make knots. If it gets too thin, it can cut into you, and undoing knots becomes much more challenging. This kind of rope is a happy medium, up to 1/2 inch, I would say, but it also depends on the rope. If it's really soft, it'll be easier to tie. How it feels against your skin is also a determining factor of what kind of rope you wish to purchase. Softer rope is always recommended for beginners. Whether it's a synthetic fiber or a natural fiber, it doesn't matter for softness. You can get hemp rope, for example, in a rough state or in a worked, softened state, and they will have very different feels from each other. The one thing do keep in mind is that for synthetic fiber rope, as you are drawing the rope over a limb or a skin, that speed, that friction of that rope movement can cause burns faster with a synthetic rope than a natural fiber rope. Natural fiber ropes can still cause friction burns, but not as easily. The natural fiber ropes are cooler for some reason, and the synthetic can get really hot really fast. This is why when you're working on somebody else, you're always putting your hand between the rope and the person and the skin. Now, when you're doing it to yourself, that's much harder to do, but you also have the immediate feedback of it's too hot. So it's a trade-off in that regard. But yeah, when you do get your rope, what I usually suggest is that you get it in bulk. You get a length. What I've recently have purchased is actually cotton clothesline. It was a 100-foot roll, 3/8 thick, and it was braided, not a twisted. And what I did is I did something called a whipping on the end, where you take another thread. This is wax twine that you then secure the ends, and I measured out different lengths. So I did some around 3 meters, 6 meters, and 12 meters for this particular set of rope. How much is that in feet? I'll put it in the description below. I can't do math right now. But when you whip the ends first and then cut it to length, you're actually making a more secure end. Now, with synthetic ropes, you actually can also whip them, but often what you also need to do after cutting them, or hot cutting them with something that has heat in it, called a hot knife. Most people just use scissors and then use heat to seal the ends, because often they have a separate core on the inside than the outside, and they will separate if you don't secure them. So you can do the whipping, but also do the heat treat on the end. Be very careful. Molten plastics are very, very hot and they can burn you. I often have an old butter knife or something like that, or even a plate or something, or board, that I can then roll the end of the cut and melted end onto, and then kind of mold it into shape, so it's a nice rounded shape and doesn't have any sharp edges. Because when it hardens, anything that's protruding out or mushroomed out outside of the rope can get caught, or can actually slice and cut, because it can be really sharp if there's like a sharp point or edge to it. So yeah, that's kind of the rope basics for what you can use for ropes, what you want to look for. Go to the hardware store, go to the boat supply store, go to your dollar store, outlet store. I got the clothesline rope at Princess Auto. Look for sales, that's always a benefit, especially if you want to do different sizes of ropes. Or just start off with, I think this is a 8-foot, 10-foot kind of piece, a couple meters, just to practice wrist ties, or get a couple of jump ropes, just cut off the ends, secure them, and play with that to start with. Find out if you even like it. You may hate it, so it's not for everybody. But if you do want to explore it, get cheap rope first, that you're not concerned or you're not worried about cutting and messing it up. Because when you get the really expensive rope, the fancy stuff first, you're like, oh my God, what if I, get it dirty or have to cut it or make a knot in it that I can't get out? Just get something inexpensive that feels good against your skin, that you enjoy, color-wise, doesn't matter. Pick something that you like. It will give you more pleasure to play with. So hope that helps, and see you again soon. Bye.